So we are going to get started with our panel discussion. I'm really excited because there's kind of this is our origins. So I know I'm making them feel really old right now, but guys, these are some folks that helped pave the way to where we are now. So first, on your left, we have Matteo. He started in year 2 during the COVID year, which was, there were no camps in the school. We were in this room, and each classroom had a camp in it, so it was insane. This is David Youngblood. His family were parishioners here, and he was here in year 1. He is one of the stars of the Zeb and Asher show, morning show. That's where the truck song originated, the coconut song. Lots of fun things. Then we have Samantha O'Keefe, formerly Samantha Labaski, and Samantha is a year 1 SASHling. She came here from Virginia Beach. She was at Shenandoah University and then decided why not just not go home over the summer. And so she came here, and it was insane. And then we have Emma, and she is the very first person who had the official title of assistant director. That was in the COVID year too, I think. So I knew Emma. She was her parents and her musicians. They sang in the choir. Emma is a fantastic musician, piano player, singer. How many albums do you have now? Just still the one, or? Oh, it was good stuff. And actually Sam was the second assistant director in 2021 after the year after the COVID year. So it was kind of insane. So they're just here to tell you a little bit about their original experiences in SASH. I kind of set the needle with a few questions. We'll just kind of go down the line, and then I just want to open up for discussion. Like, ask them, because they're all a little further in life. All of them are married. A couple of them have kids. Yep. And some of you got a chance to speak with Samantha earlier this summer, but this is an awesome opportunity. So I will turn it over to them, and please welcome.
All right, thank you guys. So as Chris said, my name is Matteo. I'm 24. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at McCarthy & Acres, which is a local law firm. I went there right after school. I went to Christendom for 4 years, worked at SASH. All right, yeah. Great. I'm actually the only Christendom grad up here. That's crazy. But yes, there were a lot of Christendom people working at SASH when I started. I hear there's a few still now. But yeah, worked at SASH in between semesters, and then started at McCarthy & Acres. I'm, as Chris mentioned, married. I have one son. His name is Benedict. He's 17 months old tomorrow. And so I still live really close to here, still come to Sacred Heart all the time, and I love to see all you guys out there doing SASH every week. Some of the things Chris asked us to talk about were like our favorite experiences from SASH, or how they affected us, or some of the most difficult things about SASH. And I think one of the things that I'd say was a big influence for me is I honestly grew up as a little bit of a sheltered homeschooler, and so coming to SASH was my first introduction in a lot of ways to people my age who came from very different walks of life, or thought about things very differently, even practiced their faith very differently. And so in some ways it was eye-opening in a way that was good, in that I could see people who looked at the faith very differently, but still took it very seriously, still took their work ethic very seriously, and were great people that I could still get along with, even though they weren't like me. And in some ways, it was also a good eye-opener to see how, if you saw someone who didn't have a good work ethic, or who didn't take their faith as seriously, that you and other people like you could be an example to them and could help them to develop in their faith and in their professionalism. And on that note, I do think SASH helped me a lot in my professional development. I learned more as an admin my second year about Excel spreadsheets than I did in any other job, and it was incredibly useful. I was working in an Excel spreadsheet all morning this morning, so all of those things came in very handy. But ultimately, it was beneficial to me to get through all the challenges of SASH, of being here during the COVID year, and basically those of us who weren't running camps were doing community service. And so I was at a goat barn mucking out a stall for a few weeks, and we We had campers who were very difficult at times. I'm sure that's not a new problem. And learning to work through all of those things and to work with other people, and especially to come back at the end of the day and kind of relax in front of our Lord and say, and offer it all to Him, was a really big benefit, and it really got me in a lot of the habits that I use today. So, pass it along to David now.
No, I'm not quite so articulate and mentally organized, so I brought my cheat sheet. My name is David Youngblood. As Chris said, I've been here. I was here from year 1 through year 4, I think. Should know that, but probably 4. I started working here. It was kind of the new fun thing, and I knew Chris, he and my family. I've always been friends. I happened to marry his daughter. It's curious. But I wasn't, when I started working, I wasn't expecting it to be quite the operation that it is. I started working at 17 and a half, going on 18, and then I think I was the youngest. Not I was the second, and the other person was also 18, so the average age was like over 20. So SASH really got off to a good start that way, created a program, and I found it very inspirational is a cheesy word, but it's fitting to see, especially as a lot of the people whom I've seen as volunteers in the past have grown into the instructor roles. I can only imagine, as Matteo brought up, the difficult kids, particularly the older antisocial types. But also, as Matteo mentioned, the coming back at the end of the day to adoration, just giving it all to the Lord, kind of made it worth it in a way. What else is on my cheat sheet? What is the biggest impact SASH had on you? I've always found it touching while I was working there, but I continued to see it since. You'll find that a lot of children growing up, especially, you see it especially in SASH, just because there's so many around and they're not in school mode. Just how much of an impact the small things you do for them, the small ways you give an example of care and love and sincerity. Just how those tiniest things can make a huge difference. I think this was my 3rd year. We had one particular kid, his name was DJ. I don't know if he's still around at all as a volunteer or not, but he stuck around for a while. DJ was one of those kids who the first time you meet him, you think he's going to be a problem. Then he is a problem, and then you're patient and you're kind with him, and then he becomes the nicest kid you've ever known. And I'm sure that there's still examples to this year of things like that. What else is here? I feel remembering from SASH. I don't know who here remembers Cassie Maryland.
Yes.
That's right. I have to insert this story in there. This would have been year 3 as well, I think. And we were doing a camping trip. This was out in Maryland along the Potomac River. There was the option to go on a kayaking trip. I attended this kayaking trip. I think it was like 8 of us. So we're supposed to all be kayaking from our starting point to our ending point. And Cassie, if you know her, she is the biggest personality people I've ever known. She is very insistent that she spends the 2-hour kayak trip sitting in the same place fishing the whole time. So I volunteer to kind of stay in the middle, lag behind until she catches up. Then she disappears. doesn't catch. So eventually I find her, and we go on this long adventure for about 2 more hours down the river, not knowing that we passed the ramp, not knowing where we were, getting caught up in some rapids, getting stuck on a tree, and then the cops find us. The Maryland, they're called, whoever the river police are. So they find us. Cassie does not have a life vest on. She's very insistent she doesn't wear it for the reasons that I'm sure she has. And so she gets a citation, a really fun picture. I think it's hanging up in your home, right?
Oh, she framed it and gave it
The
to me.
famous citation. But it didn't end there, because then we decided that we would never find the ramp. We got out and we walked through the woods with our kayaks until we had reception to call the kayak company to find a van and find us and pick us up. So I had to put that story in there. That is the story of my favorite memory from SASH. I'll pass it on. But yeah.
Well, it's gonna be hard to read that story. Hey guys, I am Samantha or Sammy. Girls, sorry you've already heard it all, but I am, I worked the first year and then the third year. Went to Shenandoah University and graduated, and then started working at Chelsea Academy. And then I got married 2 years ago, and we have a 15-month-old girl. Her name's Maeve, and she's really fun. Yeah, that's pretty much my life. I'm a stay-at-home mom. We live in Front Royal. So SASH, was a huge. I really don't know like why I started working here. I just feel like I was around. I kind of knew Chris, and he was like, "You should do this." And I was like, "What's there to lose?" I lived with an 80-year-old woman that summer. She was like my host family. She was a widow. It was just her and I. That was like a really fun, interesting experience. My parents were definitely really confused on why I wanted to spend my summer doing this, but it ended up being super pivotal in a lot of the areas of my life. I've met some of my lifelong friends like Emma. We were both bridesmaids in each other's weddings, and we're still super, super close. And I feel like SASH taught me a lot of foundational things, like they mentioned going to max and adoration every day. I feel like really set foundations for a good prayer life. And it was definitely the first time I was really truly in charge of something, and that was super intimidating, especially when, I was 8, or I guess the second year I was like 20 years old, but still you're just like in charge of your peers, which is a little difficult, but also it was really beautiful and inspiring. And that definitely helped me land my job at Chelsea. I felt like a lot of the things I did here were resume builders, so that should be encouraging for you guys. And I think honestly the biggest thing I learned was to learn to laugh at like utter chaos, because I don't know, you can try to be serious in life, but life is really comical, and when things are hitting the fan, it's better to just like laugh about it, which I feel like that is definitely Chris's posture. And then as a staff, we like adopted that, and we would have these debriefs and just be like dying laughing at the chaos that would go on. The year that I was the assistant director, we were really trying to solidify like the pre-K. I don't know if that is still going on, but good. I'm sure you're much more organized than we were. We were like frantically trying to write manual. Like we just didn't know. Like who knows how to take care of tiny kids like that? Not a lot of people. And then they're supposed to be potty trained, but like, are they? I would say those are some of my favorite memories. We had one kid do we would do like water day in the courtyard, and we would always get like soaking wet and bombarded. But we had a kid do a naked lap for quite a bit, and I had to email all the parents to like let them know, which was super awkward. That was super chaotic. We used to do like tea sessions, and Matteo, actually, you were involved in those. You would sit down and like gossip with the 3-year-olds. That was always really entertaining. I really love the mornings though. Like you had to get here kind of early, but the morning show was rocking, and like we would all just be drinking coffee and like jamming out. We did like the same songs every morning. There was like choreographed dances, and I just remember looking around and being like, "This is so epic that this is like I'm getting paid to do this." So if you ever come here and you're tired and you're feeling negative, just remind yourself like this is the chillest job you'll ever have in your life, and it's pretty sick. You're getting paid to do this. Like it's really the best, and it translates a lot into like family life. Like as a mom, that whole like laughing at things is. I mean, if I didn't do that, I think I'd be miserable. Like when a child like poops all over you, you know, you can't get mad at them. You just have to like embrace it and be like, this is really something, you know, and just laugh at the chaos. So, yeah, that's what I have to say.
Hey guys, my name is Emma. I am 25. I currently work as a first grade teacher and a director of theater, which is a new development. So that'll be kind of like Sam was saying, embracing the chaos. It's a lot of fun. I worked at SASH in I think 2019 and the COVID year 2020, and the COVID year was definitely something to write home about for sure. One thing that comes in mind to me when I think of my experience at SASH, when I first applied to come to SASH, Chris had actually, our families knew each other for a long time going to church here, and he contacted me and said, hey, I've got this great summer job opportunity if you were interested in applying and interviewing. And truthfully, I had just come off of a pretty rough freshman year at Virginia Tech. I was in their military program, and it sucked. Like, it was just brutal. And so I was like, you know what, that sounds great. Like, I would love to get paid, and I'm kind of bored. Sure, I will absolutely interview. I didn't really think much of it. And then when I came to SASH, I can honestly say that it really did change my life in a lot of ways, because I really maintained a lot of important relationships through that job. Like Sam was saying, we still get together all the time. We were at each other's weddings. I keep in touch with a lot of the friends that I made from SASH, and I felt like they were really positive role models and influences in my life. And I felt like having the opportunity to pray and connect with my faith again after such a rough first year of college, I felt like really set me up for success for like the rest of my adult life. I now practice the faith every day. I try to live it every day, and I don't think that was true before I came to SASH. So it was definitely a huge impact in that way. Another huge impact SASH had for me was the fact that before I worked at SASH, I really was not a fan of kids at all. And now I literally work with kids for my career. So that's kind of a fun shift thanks to SASH. It's something I didn't know about myself. So a lot of the skills you'll learn here will be fundamental throughout your life. And I know that sounds corny and dramatic, but it is true. And my hope for you guys is that you will look back at your time at SASH and really enjoy the opportunities you had here. Like Sam was saying, how cool is it that you're getting paid to pray every day? That's pretty awesome. So I hope that you guys look back fondly on the memories and relationships you have here. So yeah.
Open up for questions, comments.
All right, so Chris said it's open for questions and comments. So if you guys just want to like raise your hand maybe, and then we'll take it. Yes. Thanks.
What is like your most difficult like childhood with school?
Sorry, the question is, who is the most difficult child to deal with?
What was your story with like the most difficult child you dealt with? Every time it's that.
I guess I'll go first. So I don't remember what the kid's name was, but it was, so since I was an admin the second year, I like sat in the tea room and had tea with the 3-year-olds, but that was only because I enjoyed it. I didn't really have to run a camp. I was doing all the admin stuff. But the first year, during COVID, I ran a camp for 1 week. I was with a good friend of mine, and we had the genius idea of creating crossbows with the kids. So we helped build them all ahead of time, and the kids put them together. And the idea is they were supposed to shoot toothpicks with a little cotton ball at the end so it wouldn't hurt. But then of course this one kid decided he was going to do it the reverse way and shoot the toothpicks facing outward. And so he ended up shooting a couple of them right into the ceiling up here. And it was just really hard to keep him in control while also watching all the other kids. That was he was difficult for the whole week, but just kind of like David said earlier, the patience that we had with him and the ways we were able to kind of redirect his attention or say, or affirm him in ways that he was doing well, I think really made a good effect by the end of the week. We felt a lot more in control and a lot better about that relationship by Friday.
You guys have?
There was this one kid, he was, I think he was like 12, 13, around that age, whatever was Eagles class at the time. He was big too, he was like almost my height, about my weight, and he was very stubborn. One particular memory I had was I forgot what the camp was, it was something sports-like, and we were playing some sports game outside. And he refused to play. He would sit on the ground, and while sitting on the ground, he would personally attack and verbally abuse all of the students around him. And that particular activity and throughout most of the class, it was pretty much me standing or sitting with him somewhere else while the assistant instructor was running the rest of the camp. And insofar as he was going to be in the camp the whole time, that's probably the best way it could have worked. But as far as I know, and that was his first week there, I think he learned he couldn't press our buttons too hard if we didn't give in, if we were patient, if we took him out of the occasions to be a little bit of a booger. I think that's all I have to say. And he's doing okay now. I see him every once in a while. He's a good guy.
I feel like I've blocked a lot of this out of my memory from trauma, but we did have a flight risk kid. I'm sure you've heard that story about. He ran away like across the street, and the irony is that the parents like knew this was a problem but didn't really inform us until this happened. Like it was like, oh yeah, like sometimes he'll escape. You're thinking he's gonna escape from the classroom, not like the entire building. And then I think it was after that he had like an ankle monitor GPS on his ankle. It's like our little convict. I don't know how he's doing. I'm sure he's doing great. Yeah, great, awesome. Yeah, honestly, I had more issues with the volunteers. I hope you guys are behaving yourselves. Just saying, a lot of volunteers not doing their job was like the biggest beef we had, but it's okay. Everyone grows. I'm sure you guys are doing great.
One that comes to mind for me, I think this was like the first or second week of SASH like ever, and I was running their soccer camp, and like I mentioned before, I had just come off of a year of doing military school, and so I thought it would be super fun to make soccer camp like really not fun for the kids. I was like, how about we run laps, we can do push-ups, we will not be playing soccer, we're just gonna exercise. And I distinctly remember actually Matteo's little brother was the only one who was like, this is awesome. But yeah, I don't recommend making your kids do drills the whole time.
So, for each of you, how would you say, what was the one thing you did that you can confidently say made an impact on SASH?
Like an impact on the program or like the kids?
I mean, like, for how the program is, like, what was your mark to change SASH for the better? If you can't think of one for the better, you can think of one for the worse.
It's a little more organized now, but I was among the improvised morning show pioneers. We were supposed to, even from year one, we were supposed to always be planning our morning shows. They were planned probably 10% of the time for the first 2 years, and we 90% of the time. And it was from those very early winged morning shows where we would get, at least what were until recently, give it away. Is that still happening?
Yes, it is.
Yes. I think the dance started the last year I was here. The truck song, no one knows that anymore, but you know, I was a big deal back in the day. The truck song, the coconut song, those types of things. That's what I have.
I feel like I was a part of the organization because like after COVID, because COVID wasn't like full on camps, and it was like I was the year after we were just trying to like figure out how to do like inventory and shopping and even just like staffing schedules and who has a walkie-talkie, all that like really boring admin stuff. Matteo was like the workhorse behind that, and I would just probably yap away at like ideas, and he was like, okay, because your position was like, what was it called?
It was admin.
Admin, yeah, okay, great. So I was also really trying to get some first aid, something figured out. There's a lot of injuries happening and bee stings and stuff. Do you have a nurse now?
No, I just remember we had a nurse.
Well, my friend Tori was a nurse, and that was probably why she was hired. She was like low-key the school nurse, but yeah. And the other thing I was really passionate about was getting coffee. I like forced Chris to buy good coffee pods. I hope you guys are still getting good coffee.
No.
We like had a Keurig in the office, and
There's not a curator? What? I don't know.
Is
that?
we had the pods,
Oh, pods.
like the Keurig pods. Sorry, gosh, maybe we should donate one. I think I drank like 8 cups of coffee a day at that job, so yeah.
Yeah, so admittedly, since I was in charge of the COVID year, I feel like I was not that helpful in making the program what it is today. But one thing that does stand out, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but you and I kind of started doing music during the adoration period. And that might seem like a small thing, but I think that can also be really helpful in your prayer life. So that was one thing that kind of sticks out as something I didn't do that here.
Yeah, I just build on what Sam said. I mean, I remember like Sam, me, and Carla Paulina were like all organizing a lot of things. One thing, like I mentioned, working in Excel a lot, I remember having to figure out how to create all the spreadsheets for check-in and check-out, and then dealing with last-minute sign-ups, and then having to reprint all the check-ins and pages and get them out to the staff. But I felt like by the end of the year, we had made a lot of progress in making that more organized. Hopefully you guys have an even better system now.
Yes, in the back.
Something funny that a camper had said to you in the past that still sticks and you quote it constantly.
Sam, do you have a picture of the quote board?
Okay, so we had a quote board in the library with all of the funny quotes that came from campers and all the funny quotes that came from SASHers. I can't remember one off the top of my head right now, but I'm sure I have a picture of it somewhere.
I like it could like ruin our reputations if someone saw that.
Very true.
We were always worried that Father Lumberg would read it. Like, this is illegal. I'm just kidding. Gosh, some of the things that were said were taken. Yeah, just made no sense. I had a kid once. He was like, I can't remember his name. Maybe you guys will, but he was in aftercare every day, like until 6 p.m. And he always had a lunchbox, of like for snacks, and it was always 2 Pop-Tarts and 2 bags of potato chips. And I was like, how are you alive? You know, like. And he's like, I run on Pop-Tarts. Like it just fuels me. And I was like, you know what? I respect that. Pop-Tarts are really good. And I heard I just like ate Pop-Tarts every day. He was my buddy. I can't remember his name, but he was sweet. I'll try to find that. I'm sure I have a picture somewhere.
What was your favorite camp?
My favorite camp was when I got put onto survival camp with Sam. That was like where we first met, and I knew nothing about survival. So Sam was like, "You know how to like make a splint, and you can like build a fire, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally." But I remember we got really close during that camp, and it actually ended up being one
that was probably my favorite camp too, but art camp was second. Just that was really, really good time.
One, I got two. The first, obviously, martial arts. Getting to kick things and kick kids. Organized fighting is fun. The second would be, I forgot what the name of the camp was, something about inventing inventors or whatever. That was fun because coming from a family of 9 kids, we had to invent our own fun with whatever random objects we had in the house. So I had pretty much the whole camp planned in my mind before I even wrote anything down. My favorite thing was our little rubber band guns, where we use rubber bands, giant popsicle stick, popsicle, wait, popsicle. Yes, it sounds wrong, but it's right. Popsicle sticks. And then put the hole, the toothpick, rubber band at the bottom, the rubber band at the top. That's held in by the rubber band at the bottom. You just stick another toothpick in there and shoot it. We didn't shoot each other. That was fun. Can't remember the rest, but they were all fun. But I like that, being able to share the knowledge.
I also have two. One was the one we've already talked about, which is like sitting in the pre-K room and having tea with them at the end of the day. But the other one was I got called in to teach a line dance at dance camp. And it was just cool because it was the first camp that I had seen where the instructors had really full control of their classroom, and like all the kids were interested in what we were doing. So it was really cool. I mean, that's not an aspersion on anybody else's camps. Some of them are just hard to manage, but this one just happened to have a bunch of kids that were truly interested in dancing, and so it was cool to teach them something, and they all loved it. So.
I went to camping trips.
All right, well, you've heard one good story about it. I think this might have been the same camping trip, but when we got there, everything was flooded.
Yes.
The campsite we were supposed to be at was about this deep in water. So I have a great picture of one of my friends with this little camp stool that he plopped in the middle of the puddle. And it looks like he's sitting on water because there was literally no ground. Somehow we managed to find slightly dry spots to put our tents, but we were all soaked by that point, so we just kind of embraced it. And then while some people went kayaking and other adventures, I had friends who were really into rock climbing, so we found a railroad where they had blasted out the side of the cliff, and so there was, of course, a lot of great rock climbing right off the railroad. And then when you hear the train coming, you'd like jump off the tracks and then jump back on when you're ready. So that was a lot of fun. I'm not sure if Chris knew where we were, but we weren't that far off. But that was really good.
That was also coincidentally the camping trip where my car had to get towed out of the mudslide. So that was a fun time as well.
Was that the one where Elizabeth like almost went into the lake?
Yes, she was driving
Oh,
it
yeah.
and she like slid sideways into almost into the river. So the Lord was with us because it did not go into the river. It was a time.
How does SASH look different from your first year up until now?
It's definitely like double the size, which is awesome to see.
I mean, it's hard because we haven't seen what you're doing really. I mean, we see you, and you're double the size. I'm sure it's much more organized. I've heard that you inventory. There's a whole person in charge of buying things. That's a great idea. God bless you. Do you know Walmart really well? I memorized that store. This is we were there every day. So you're probably, you guys are probably doing a lot. You're running more efficiently, I'm sure, than we were.
One small thing, but we were almost never in Muldowney Hall. We were always in the library at the school, so these things were in the library. Lunch was at the cafeteria, was in one of the classrooms at the school. I mean, we were in here for there's like all our bases of operations were elsewhere. So it's pretty cool that you guys got to be here.
You guys can also ask us questions that aren't related to SASH if you want to. Just putting that out there.
Do you recognize any friends among our current group? Because I know that some people have been here for a little while.
All my friends are sitting in the way back, so shame on them. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I do actually know some of the people in the back. I'm not just kidding, but.
I thought you were referring to Jesus. That's why I was like, oh, it's such a good, like, oh, he's not there.
I'm not knowing.
Save Matteo over here. Yeah.
What were y'all's favorite talks at SASH? Ones that stuck with you?
So one year, Father Riley came and gave a reflection. It was really cool because he brought us all like rosaries that I still have with me, that are like olive wood made in Holy Land. And he talked about how the rosary is a weapon and how you should always have it with you, how you should always be fingering it in moments of temptation. And all of those things really stuck with me. If you've ever heard one of Father Riley's reflections, a lot of the things he says really stick with you. So that is definitely one for me.
One that sticks out for me is when Mrs. Ricketts came and talked to all the girls, and she was incredibly vulnerable with all of us, and I felt like she created a space for all of us to be able to share our experiences in a very meaningful way.
So Matteo, who is your favorite Christmas professor?
Oh, am I going to create controversy? That's a great question. So, I don't know how many of you have met Mike Brown, but
Yes.
yeah, okay, I figured that'd be a popular answer. He is. When I was a student, he was super involved. He started like regular poker nights. He would personally pay for like dinners for the students where they could come and like read Thomistic articles, and they were usually catered from some local restaurant. His classes were hilarious. He himself was hilarious. I wrote my thesis under him, and he was the most forgiving and at the same time like challenging and helpful professor that I had. So I mean, there were so many that I could point out, but he was definitely my favorite.
Sorry. For follow-up, were you an ACAT or a BOSO?
Wait, say that again?
Were you an ACAT or a BOSO?
Oh, I was definitely a bozo.
Feeling the same as me?
Me too. What was the most meaningful like conversation or experience that you had at SASH?
I have thought so. This is more to people to do with like the people who were there. My first year at SASH, I was there with two very close friends already, and then one of them found a girl he really liked at SASH and started dating her. She's now his wife, and she had already become really good friends with another girl, and we just kind of got to be a really close circle. And the conversations we had with them, because this was kind of what I was thinking of when I said people came from very, very different walks of life. These were all people who were like so outside my comfort zone, but because I got pulled into that friend circle, I became so much more mature, and talking to them about what their life looked like and having some very vulnerable conversations with them about that was really, really eye-opening, and really helped me to appreciate how much work they had done to get to the point where they were, but also helped me appreciate like how lucky I was to come from where I came from.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was a lot of, it's almost like a lot of us went into working here like, oh, it's just like, we're hanging out with kids, and didn't maybe consider how profound it would be to be going to Mass and adoration every single day. And then like halfway through the summer, you started to see the fruits of that just exploding. Like a lot of us who didn't go to a Catholic school were coming off of like our freshman year of college, and it was so unfamiliar and crazy. And I would say like there was a lot of reconversions happening and a lot of conversations around that. A lot of like after a really impactful talk, we would be like sitting in the corner talking about it. Yeah, I think that was like, there was a lot of breakthrough conversations. And seminarian Ricky was there, I think that was my second year, and God bless that man. He just was so present. He gave an amazing talk about his conversion, or his, like how he knew he was called to be a priest, and you could like, it was palpable in the room how much it touched everyone and everyone's stories. And then he would like walk with you. Like if you ever need to talk about anything, he would like go on a walk through the gardens with you, whatever, and just chat. He was like a spiritual mentor. He's a priest now, right? As of last year.
Father Ricky.
Yeah, Father Ricky. So awesome.
I won't be too greedy, so this is gonna be the last question. What was the worst day for you? Like not this individual moment was hardest. What was the one day that really tested you with you being at SASH?
Honestly, like I don't remember. I feel like the goodness outshined the. I'm sure there were really bad days, but I don't know.
I do remember. The goodness did outshine the bad days. I'm not denying that. But the first day I tried to run a camp I felt like an abject failure because I had planned it all out ahead of time. I had this plan that I thought was foolproof. I thought I had all the things that the kids would love, and I would fill the day. And from the very first moment, most of the kids were not interested in what I had planned. I didn't have nearly enough planned, and the camp kind of just fell apart. And I was like, I can't run a summer camp. Like, this is crazy. And I have to go back to work tomorrow and try this again with the same group of kids that I just got humiliated in front of yesterday. That was a really tough day. It was a tough week, but really once I got through those first 2 days and had the encouragement from people around me, it was a really good character building experience. So.
The following story is not for imitation. This was year 2, the year of the Gaga Ball. We were, there was a particular kid who then, as they usually do, went on to be a good kid, but at the time was an older, difficult, antisocial kid. We were playing Gaga Ball, and he decided that he was immortal and refused to get out. The instructor in charge of Gaga Ball was trying to be patient, kind with him. He started insulting her. Then I did something that you're not supposed to do, so don't do this. But I picked him up and I took him out of the Gaga Ball pit. And then that became an HR nightmare. Do you remember this? And then the rest of the day became dread of the consequences. In my defense, what I would have done to my little brothers. I was treating him with brotherly love. No, that's probably the worst day of SASH I can remember.
Sorry for the weird questions. Just everyone always asks, what's the best part? What's the good part? But if I ask, obviously you guys are doing good. The program's doing good. So if I ask, what's the bad part? We know what challenges you've overcome, and I feel like that's just as good to hear.
What were some of the incident reports like?
Not what I meant to do.
Those are classified.
There is a curable worse.
Did we have incidents reports?
I don't remember if we.
I don't know, guys. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think we had an official report. I mean, if something bad happened, like we for sure wrote it down, but it wasn't like, are you filing them every day? Wow. Okay. Hopefully not.
our version of the incident report was like unloaded on Chris and after solved the problem.
What advice would you give instructors coming for the first time?
I would say whatever you do at SASH every day, lean into it. I was really hesitant to just be vulnerable my first year here and to lean into all the experiences and the prayer aspect of it. I was very hesitant to lean into that, but I think the more you just let loose, lean into it, you'll gain more from that experience for sure.
I'm sure you guys are doing this well, but embrace your inner child, because this is such like this phrase is corny, but like safe place for that, you know, like it's like there's like zero judgment. You're working at a summer camp, you can just like be really goofy and lean into, like, kids obviously are gonna open up when they see your childlike tendencies. I like purposely dressed kind of ridiculously because I could, and I wasn't getting yelled at for dressing ridiculously. I like a lemon sweater with lemons all over it, and then like these bright blue striped pants from Haiti, like they're like hippie pants.
I remember the pants.
Yeah,
They
dude.
were horrible.
Thank you. Thank you. I still have them. I should have worn them. I literally went to Goodwill and just bought like ridiculous outfits because it was just so fun. Like, I don't know, just embrace that part of it. It's good for your soul.
Probably say a job and childcare is serious, but you don't have to take it too seriously. You can take it lightly and be sincere about it. So, kind of a combination of what they said. Be kind of silly, kind of goofy. It's not that serious.
I'm just seeing it, like, I will admit I'm a very judgy person, but when I came to SASH and like saw people let loose and like be goofy, those were the people I admired the most, because I knew it was really hard for me to dig into that part of myself and kind of let go of the restraints of like, what are people gonna think if I do this? So if someone really judgy admires that because you're doing a really good job, just don't worry about what people think. But my advice is actually for specifically new instructors is lean into the knowledge that's already there from the older instructors. It's something that we didn't really have as much the benefit of in the early years of like the experience of previous years, but you have a lot of that now. Like someone mentioned, some of the people have been here for a long time, and that's really, really valuable because it really can help you to avoid a lot of mistakes and to get through a lot of difficult times. So my best advice is like make really good friends with some of the older instructors that have the experience and then tap them for their wisdom. Yeah.
What did changeover used to be like?
They probably didn't even call it that. She means on a Friday when we cleaned up one camp, we just went to the next one. We didn't call it that.
I don't know. We didn't really like, we just cleaned, right?
Yeah, so it's like on a Friday, putting away this week's camps and getting ready for next week's camps.
See how Chris had to explain that to us? We didn't really have it.
Yeah,
most of,
I
we
think
kind of
Monday,
like scrambled.
like Monday morning, we all came a little early because
Yeah.
it was like, oh yeah, I have a camp to set up.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we did a lot of cleanup on Friday, but we did some setup for the next week's camps, but a lot of it happened Monday morning.
What advice do you guys have for like transitioning from like college life to like adult life afterwards?
I'd say pick the most important habits that you developed in school and really focus on keeping those. Because what's really easy to happen when you have a big life transition, especially when you're taking on a job that takes, regular intervals of time, is that it's easy to kind of like totally recreate your life and lose a lot of the progress that you made, whether it was in your spiritual life or in your work ethic or in your relationships and friendships that you made during college. So for example, if you have a habit in college of like you're getting to daily mass twice a week, or if you have the habit of like I work out in the morning three times a week or something like that. Pick the ones that are most important because you usually can't keep all of them, but just find a way right away to keep those habits because that helps keep you grounded and also helps you to feel good about the progress you're making. And then you can build on that foundation once you understand a little more what your life is going to look like and what's doable and what's not.
I went to community college, so I don't know how much this counts. But I think the biggest advice I give is while you're still in college, act as though you are already in your adult life. Don't expect there to be an actual switch flip or any sort of transition that actually pushes you into it. College is more like, it's kind of like a newly tilled empty garden, and instead of imagining how you're going to farm it, it's already your garden, and you're already taking care of it. So I just, as they say, start now.
Yeah, I was gonna say something along the lines of like, I mean, who you are freshman year and who you are senior year are completely different people in a good way. Like college is, of course, like your main purpose is to get a degree and like do well, study wise. That's like your vocation as a student. But it actually, I believe, is more formational for who you are as a person because you are given like each year you're given a little bit more responsibility, a little bit more of a hint of, you know, like by senior year you're not living in dorms, you're actually like adulting. And so like take the reins of your life like throughout. I think like some people make the mistake of just like sitting back and relaxing during college and being like, I'll figure out all that adult stuff later. Like I met a lot of people who were like falling away from their faith and they're like, I'll figure that out when I'm an adult. And I'm like, what? Like you could die tomorrow. Like that doesn't make any sense, you know? Or people who don't work at all and have $0 when they graduate. Like, that's super stressful. So like be eager to take on responsibilities like of adulting so that adulting doesn't like slap you in the face when you graduate because that's where a lot of people get so overwhelmed they like shut down. So yeah, just like I know a lot of you probably have like your parents supporting you and that's super awesome, but you don't, once you graduate, you don't want to be relying on your parents. Like you want to be able to thrive as an adult and like do your own thing. The biggest thing that I've been thinking a lot about is how different friendships are when you're in college versus when you're an adult. So like when you're in college, I mean, you have a roommate who's hopefully one of your friends, and then you live in a dorm with your friends, and you go to class with your friends, you eat with your friends, and everyone's like central. So it's so easy. You can text someone and you can be at their dorm or wherever in like 2 minutes, and your life is like one big party. Like you're always socializing. And then you graduate and you all move away from each other or whatever. There's no dances that you're invited to. There's no, you know, dinner, whatever. You can't go to the dining hall and hang out. You have to actually like work for your friendships. And you'll see a lot of adults that don't have many friends, and it's because they never took the time to like learn how to cultivate that. So work on that now. Like be intentional with your friendships. I always say to like girls, like it's almost like you treat it like you treat dating in a way. Like you're like, wow, that girl's really cool. Like I'm gonna get her phone number and actually text her to get coffee and actually hang out and like actually do that. Take the next step. Guys too, like actually pursuing meaningful time together. Not just like, oh, we happened to be walking to class at the same time and we were chatting. That's awesome, but that won't happen when you're an adult. You don't want to just have friends of convenience, right? You want like real friendships. So I've been thinking about that. Like, who do you want to walk with in life? God willing, you meet some people in college that become lifelong friends. But yeah, you don't want to like graduate and just be like, oh, I have no friends and I don't know how to do that, you know? So, yeah.
I'm gonna kind of go off of that a little bit too. I think if my 25-year-old self could talk to my 18-year-old self, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, you need to get better friends. So definitely work on cultivating those good, intentional friendships. And when you graduate, you're not gonna be surrounded by like-minded people or people your age. You'll go into the workforce and you'll have a variety of different people that you interact with every day. real world every single day. So make sure that you are cultivating those friendships now, and then when you leave and graduate college and start your jobs, like Sam was saying, be very intentional about keeping those people close.
Okay, last question, unless there's others. So one of the things I admire about all of you is that you ignored the secular world's advice because you discerned your vocation, and then you said yes, and you did that. And so when the rest of the world is telling you it's time to party in your 20s, it's for all the fun and for doing all these things, you guys chose to get married and say, this is where my life is and this is where my focus is. What would you share with everyone here about that being that intentional and making that leap into, now I'm gonna start my vocation versus my career or my adult life or whatever it is, because that's really what we're called to, right? So what would you tell everyone here about that?
That's a very good question. I mean, Chris is very right. I proposed to my now wife the day before we graduated from college. So there really wasn't much of a transition. And, you know, if I hadn't done that, I probably would have had a lot of fun the first couple years out of graduation. I might have even gone and lived in Italy because I have citizenship there. I could have, probably would have partied a lot, out to a lot of bars. I mean, there really was a choice. But, and to be honest, I had a lot of, a hard time committing to that vocation because I just wasn't sure if that's what God wanted for me. I wasn't sure if I was ready to make such a big commitment because I felt very young and inexperienced and I didn't know what I was doing. But I definitely felt that God was calling me to make a leap of faith. Even if I wasn't sure about this, that He had put this into my life in a very intentional way, that everything had worked out so perfectly, and He had helped my relationship to develop in ways that really pointed to this being my vocation. And so between that and my wife pressuring me to propose to her, I definitely got the sense of urgency of I need to do this now, and I need to proceed. I mean, in a lot of cases, you know, if you start a relationship in college, especially if it's early in college, by the time you graduate, you're kind of at a decision-making point because your relationship has progressed to a certain point, and you can't just let it stagnate. It's either going to get more and more intense in a bad way, or it's going to get more and more intense because you intentionally took the steps to make it permanent. And so I'm very thankful that I took the steps to make it permanent. In retrospect, it's a no-brainer, and I don't know why I was confused about it, but it's been very rewarding because it's not like I didn't get to do a lot of those fun things. I still get to hang out with my friends. I still got to go to Italy, but with my fiance, and I got to have a baby at a young age and experience all the laughter that comes with that. I'm sure I've laughed more in the last year and a half than I would have if I didn't have him. So that in itself is just a sign to me that my life is so much more joyful because I made that decision.
I would also say whatever your vocation you choose to pursue is, you can still have fun in that vocation. So your life doesn't end just because you decided to get married and start a family, or maybe you're pursuing something in the faith. Your life is not over. You can still have a really fulfilling, fun life filled with, like Matteo was saying, you'd be surprised how much laughter and memories you can make by entering into that vocation.
Yeah, I would say the world's idea of fun is fake. It's actually not that fun to live a meaningless life and go out to bars all the time. It has its place if you're doing it with the right intentions, but it's not actually fulfilling. So kind of you hit a point where some of you might be called to get married young like we all did, and some of you might not, and that's totally okay. There's no timeline on your vocation. So I wouldn't feel pressured to jump into anything before you feel ready, but also I talked about the girls a lot, there will be signs, for sure. God makes it abundantly clear when you are dating your spouse. There'll be, I know everyone says you'll know, it's true, you really will. And like Matteo was saying, it does feel like a leap, but now we're on the other side. And like, if you marry the right person, your life gets 1,000 times more fun. Like, you just married your best friend. Like, how could that not be the most fun thing ever, right? And you get to create a life with them. I would much rather be hanging out with my husband and my child than like going out to bars right now. That doesn't sound fun. So I would just embrace whatever God has in store for you. He's gonna make it clear, and as long as you're close to Him and you're prayerful, He's not gonna let you make the wrong decision. We like stress so much about like Matteo was saying. I'm sure it's more stressful for the guy to like propose. I was totally like, come on, it's time for like a year. But I'm sure the guy's like, oh my gosh, like this is so much more stressful. But just like leaning into it, like, okay, if you're being prayerful about this and you're moving in that direction and he's not slamming doors in your face and making it clear that this isn't the right path, then you're doing the right thing. And God gives you the desires in your heart. So like, if they're good, wholesome desires, lean into that. You're not gonna screw it up unless you're not being faithful. That's a different story. So I would just lean into the sacraments during this confusing times. And a lot of your adulthood, like all these transitions, literally feel like you're jumping off a cliff. Like it's so scary because you're like, I don't know what this is gonna look like. But then when you're a little bit older, even a few years, like Emma and I at the beginning, we worked at SASH 8 years ago, was our first year. And we feel like grandmas. You know, it's only 8 years, but a lot has happened in 8 years, you know? So you'll look back and be like, oh, that was great.
A wise man once said, "Why start big if the growing's what the point is?" Someone gets it. But I think, at least in my personal experience, maybe my fellow hunky men will relate. Whatever good things in your soul drive you towards desiring marriage, whatever your motivation is to pursue that as a vocation, those are the same virtues that, when living them out, will give you that joy that you think you might be preserving by being hyper hesitant and by being maybe being resistant to admitting that good things can be messy. Or in my own experience, I started dating my wife, whom I very recently before that hated so much. But then I didn't. It was great. But within about a month of our first date, or less, I think it was less, we found out that my entire family had to move to Alabama because my dad was getting a new job. At the time, I was paying for college out of pocket. I couldn't afford to do that and stay in the area. So it was easy for me to decide that I had to double down and I had to do the extra work to build up the foundation to come back, start working again, get my own place, and get married. So it was easy for me, it kind of forced it. But also, as difficult as it was the service and the self-sacrifice that, in a way, it made it enjoyable. However, not fun it may have felt in the present. So if don't put the Lord to the test, be prudent in all of that. But if you're being super anxious, think about what are you looking for in your vocation and in your marriage, and how are you achieving that by being resistant to it? If this makes any sense. That is all I have to say.
Yeah, I would just add on to 24/7. It is at its core awesome, but your vocation is what brings you to heaven, right? God willing. And no one ever said that was going to be easy. So I think that is the big temptation of pushing it off, because you're just like, but I can just live this life like full of just like satisfying my pleasures and just living freely and doing whatever I want, and then I'll get serious and I'll get married and I'll do it. And it's like, if you actually just are joyfully open to stepping into your vocation, because your vocation is your life, then because joy is not happiness, right? Joy is like much higher than that. So even if you're not quote unquote happy every single day because life is hard and marriage can be messy and you might be working through things, it doesn't mean you can't still be very joyful. And when you're on the other side of those conflicts, you're such a better person. Like, I think to myself, motherhood has been the hardest thing I've done in my entire life, and I'm so tired and worn to the, like, you just, some days, I know Matteo feels this way, you just feel like you have 0% left. And then I look back and I'm like, I am so glad that I'm being challenged in this way, because it's making me a better person. I would be way more selfish, right? So like, don't be afraid. Like, yes, it's gonna hurt in some ways, but it will be so much better. You will be so much better than you were before once you step into your vocation. You should be excited for that, you know, even though it's hard.
Parting thoughts?
Any last question? Dying to know anything?
So when you had like a vision for your life, was that vision the same before you started college, and then going through college, did it change at all, or was it the same?
That's a great ending question. And yes, it was incredibly different. I was maybe a little more than 50% sure that I was called to be a priest by the time I went to college, and I thought it'd be a really sweet transition to like study philosophy at Christendom and then get a couple years off of seminary and become a priest. So obviously God changed my course there, and in some very dramatic ways. But also just the way I envisioned myself kind of being as a person became very different. I think I developed a lot socially in college, and I developed a lot in the interests I had, and obviously in the education I received. But ultimately, I think it came down to learning to be flexible, because college really challenged me to live in a different way than I had, and learning to develop in that way and to kind of hold on to the faith as my anchor, but understand that life needs to be lived differently based on the different stages of life you're in, was a really big transition for me. But I'm very grateful for that lesson, because transitioning from being single to being married, from being married to being married and having a kid, are big transitions, like Sam was saying. So being able to have a vision and have a goal, but then be willing and able to change it is a very valuable lesson.
Again, I went to community college, so I had it easy. But I think, and everyone is different. For me, I had an idea of what my life would be like after college, and then thought later on that that wouldn't be the case, and it was impossible, and then it ended up being the case anyway. I was going to college, I was studying music with the hopes of becoming a music director at a church, and then my family moved and all that. I thought my hopes were dashed. I got into landscaping, came back to start a business in landscaping, and then got offered a job as a music director after that. So sometimes your desires, the ones that you feel are so closely ingrained to your person, sometimes they're big, but sometimes job that I have now, which is now music director, electrical coordinator, and all that. So I think that's what I have to say. Yes and no.
Yeah, I was on track to get my PhD in occupational therapy, and then I felt like God's really closed that door. I did not know my husband at the time. It wasn't like I was dropping out because of him, but I just come from like a really career-oriented family, so I'm the first stay-at-home mom in 3 generations. Like not even my grandmas were stay-at-home moms. And now I am, yeah, and it's like super controversial in my family, but I've always looked at it as like Matteo was saying, life is gonna look different in different seasons. And right now, my vocation and my focus is to, God willing, raise a really great child, and hopefully have more children. And then who knows? One day I might go back and get my PhD. Who knows, right? That's like not off the table. I still would really enjoy that actually. But I think in college I was so focused on success. Like I was like, I want to do these big things and be like really successful. And then I realized that it's more important to focus on like the daily tasks that you're given and do really well there, and you will do big things. It just may not look big.
They say if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And I think that's very true because when I was in college, I was dead set on being like military. I was going to go travel a ton. I was going to be like this badass, if you will. And now I look at my life, and my life is a lot quieter, and I'm married, and I work with kids every day, and that is not at all what I would have thought my life would have looked like 10 years ago, but I love my life. Like I wake up and feel so much joy in my life every day. And so I really do think